哎，好，好像已经开始。我把那个语音停掉好了，我怕那个，因为我今天带笔电出来。
是，需要镜头就是没办法打开就对了，这样。
是其实我
很小就对。
对，镜头其实是好的，可我真的不知道为什么哎。然后我稍微跟你讲一下，我赶快分享一下那个画面，就是因为我这样其实我也看不到那个大家。但是我现在跟你确定一下，就是你现在是可以看得到投影的这个投影的画面嘛，对不对？
非常清楚，对。
好，没关系，那就先这样。然后呢，就也是很抱歉，那因为其实我并不知道那个你们院长那个信是院长转出来的，我也不知道该怎么回这样子，我以为他是你的那个就是所上的秘书或什么之类的，那就是很抱歉。那他待会也会上线吗？刘教授
会，对，他会上来。那对，
好，那另外就是。
老师院长进来了，对，
还
有同学们进来了，是。
OK.
Hey,
hello, Professor Liu.
Yeah, hi. Sorry for being late for 3 minutes. I was explaining how I try to understand your paper. Yeah, because I'm not from your field, so I use Chat GPT a little bit to get to understand your methods. Yeah, so let me give the time to Professor Zhou.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Professor Tong, and dear class. It is my privilege now having my school brother, Professor Tong, to give us talk today. And thank you everyone for this rearrangement. And let me briefly introduce Professor Tong real quick. Professor Tong is currently the Director of Graduate Institute of Library and Information Science and the Director of Digital Humanity and Creative Industry Program in National Zhongxin University. And Professor Tong received his PhD degree from National Jiao Tong University. His interests include electronic commerce, computational thinking, and social network analysis. And his research paper, there are more than 40 I-papers. And I-papers meaning highly influenced around the world. And his publication, including computer and education, really highly ranking first-tier journal, and electronic commerce research and application, educational technology research and development, and also the International Journal of Computer Supported Collaborative Learning, etc. And today, Professor Tong is going to talk about one of his highly cited paper exploring the influential factor in continuous usage of mobile social apps, satisfaction, habits, and customer value perspective. So without any further ado, please welcome Professor Tong. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry because I got class from 10, also 10:10, so I have to leave. I cannot join you. Oh, it's my pity. So please forgive me for this time. Thank you.
No problem. It's okay. Thank you for the introduction, Professor Zhou. And well, actually, don't worry about the absence because the meeting has been recorded. So I will send you the record link to share with you and all of the audience here. And today, well, it's my second time to present, well, for the international student in Fujian University. And I remember that the first time I present the paper, or how do you say, give a talk, is about a year ago. So this is my anniversary talk today. And today's paper is not selected by me, but selected by our respect dean, Professor Liu. And I think Professor Liu is so smart because should really understand how to use the technology to help the work, the research, and all of the things. Because today we live in a digital world. So today's paper is one of my co-author paper and has been cited more than 800 times. It is my honor, but well, actually, I do not really expect that this paper could be reach the milestone like this. So today, I want to share with you a talk. Well, the talk divided into two parts. The first one is how to make your research as early as you can, or how to start your research. And based on this topic, or based on this central idea, I want to encourage you, all of you, to make your research bigger, because most of international students, I believe, after you graduate from Fujian University in Taiwan, then you will come back to your country to contribute to your country. So if you can learn more things in Taiwan, then I believe when you come back to your country, then your learning will be more effective. So today I want to let you understand from my paper. So I will give you some lessons to conduct a research. So the quotation mark is the article title. So don't worry about the article, because this article has been published more than 8 years. Where actually it is about a decade ago, 10 years ago, I conducted this paper around 2013, I guess. And now we are going to 2024, right? So the original idea, well, is about 10 years ago. So how to make your research bigger? This is today's talk. I will let you know. So how to start research? Well, I think there's a two-way. The first way is to conduct a so-called review study. And the review study is so helpful for junior researchers like you, and especially useful for some international students, because as we know that most of the paper published in the journal, high-ranking journal, even high-ranking journal, they are written by what language? By English, right? So if you can understand English, then you can conduct a so-called review paper, and especially systematic review. So if you want to understand how to start a research by systematic review, then you can check with the Professor Zhou, who is your director, to share with you about the video 1 year ago I taught in the Fujian University. And today I will try another way to teach you how to conduct a so-called empirical study. The word empirical means that you need to collect the real data, the data from real person. And since that the data is from the real person, so you will never know how they answer your question, right? So this is a different way, I guess, that I can let you understand. There's a different way to conduct a research, a thesis, but the same goal for systematic review or even empirical study are the same, because they are the approach to help you to complete your thesis or even to complete your publication. So let's share some agenda for today's talk. Well, this paper I want to share with you has been published in a high-ranking journal called Telematics and Informatics. So before we discuss about the paper, the content of the paper, do you understand, or have you any idea about the two words, telematics or informatics. Well, actually, the word itself is not a very common word used in our daily life, but an academic term where it actually combines two things. The first one is about the telematics, combine the telecom. The telecom is one of the technology which can help people to communicate in one place to another. And the informatics is the information with a very fancy or statistic model or mathematical model. So these two terms or terminology means that this paper, this journal welcome paper conducting empirical study, and especially they welcome the paper using some statistic method or some related method to prove the evidence scientifically. So this is the basic idea that today's talk will cover. So I give you a general idea or general overview about how to conduct a so-called empirical study. Well, you need to understand in a so-called research paper, and especially in social science, we have 5 elements. And today I will go through the 5 elements from introduction, literature review, methods, results, and conclusion. And guess what? Which part is most important to present as an empirical study? Well, it actually the result. But when you conduct a different way, for example, literature review means that the order of the content will cover the literature review part, which is very different way to conduct a research. So don't worry about it. Today, I will cover the 5 elements. So this is an introduction about the journal that I have mentioned before. This journal is quite high ranking. Well, even I have been published one paper on that. But I have been submit some paper to this journal again, but has been rejected. So it is not easy, or I have to say it is very difficult today to publish a paper, publish a manuscript in so-called high-ranking journal. So I'm so lucky to share with you here about this paper. So the paper's title combine 2 important things. Well, you can see that about the journal here, say this journal is an interdisciplinary journal. It covers many perspectives. It accepts many perspectives. Well, but they focus on what? They focus on society or social perspective, economic perspective, geographic perspective, and especially the impact of digital technology. So I will say today, you need to understand how to present or how to express your research. Say, my paper, my study is so important. Well, the first one is about how to use the technology, and especially the new technology. So as Professor Liu has said that she used the ChatGPT to help her to understand what this paper are talking about. Well, if you can do it, or you can start your research by thinking how the technology can help even student or even worker in the workplace, then it could be a very good topic to start as a thesis. So, well, I mentioned about the 5 elements, right? So in the research paper, there will be a section called abstract. The abstract means that all the content need to be presented very briefly, very concisely in almost limit in 200 or 50 words, I guess, or at least the length should not be exceed than 500. So in so limited word, how can you present your paper in a sentence? So let's check about the abstract in this paper. Has this paper abstract cover all of the 5 elements? Okay, let's check about this. Well, the first sentence appear to the paper, so you can download the paper or just Google the title. You can download the paper. So in the first sentence, among numerous categories of mobile apps, the social app were one of those with the greatest growth in 2013. The first sentence gives the background information, right, which is close to the idea about introduction. But this is not enough to present only a background information. You need to highlight what is the research gap in your paper that you want to deal with or you want to fill. This is a very important information today I want to share with you. It's not only about understand the 5 elements to conduct a research, but the core idea of the 5 elements. So in the introduction section, you need to identify, well, at least one thing is the research gap. So let's check about how the authors present their research gap. Okay, the second sentence is despite abundant research on users' intention of mobile app usage. Means that there's so many papers has been published. However, why this paper can publish in a high-ranking journal? Say, few studies have focused on investigating key determinants of the user continuous intention. So the past study focused on the intention only, and this paper extend or re-emphasize that the intention is not enough to use one technology. It should be more focused on the continued intention. Okay, so this is one difference between this paper, the contribution of this paper, and the past study. And the second one is they focus very specific on the social apps. Well, you may understand that the first sentence here, that a lot of category, right, about the mobile apps, but today in this paper, we only talk about the social apps. So this is a very specific but very useful information to help you to understand how to prepare your paper and especially focus on identifying the research gap. Okay, so the checkout list in the introduction has been published, right? So the author has noted that in the abstract that this paper will have some gap to need to be filled. Okay, about the second part is about literature. The literature part, you can try to understand the word into a theory. Well, you may understand the word itself about literature or something about the paper. Well, but it is not enough, right? You read the paper, you need to highlight what the best you stand on. So to fill this gap, we integrated consumer value perspective. So in this paper, the authors say, okay, I want to achieve or I want to deal with the problem. How can we deal with the problem? First of all, they introduce the so-called consumer view. So if we can understand that if the person feel something is important, then they may continue to purchase or continue to use the things, right? So the value perspective is quite important. So this is the first part to explore the factor in continuous intention of social app. And moreover, okay, then the author present, well, the contribution in this paper is not only present the value perspective, but also they combine the theory from, say, satisfaction theory and habit theory from marketing and psychology literature. So in this paper, well, in a very short abstract, in 2 sentences, the author present the 2 contributions from theoretical foundation. So we are not going to ask the student to conduct so theoretical perspective or theoretical paper. But if you want to publish your paper, publish your thesis, then theory is quite important. And the theory itself can help the reader or especially the editor they will favor their choice, because some paper do not really introduce the theory, which may reduce your contribution. So the checklist about the literature part, well, the authors are very clearly to present their theoretical foundation. And the third part is the method. The method is about how you use the approach systematically, or how can you teach your editor or audience to reproduce your paper. Well, it contains 2 things. First one is about the data. Well, as earlier I mentioned that we are going to conduct an empirical study, right? So we need the data. Where the data comes from? Well, issue comes from the real person. So in the social science area, that many so-called empirical study use questionnaire. Why we use questionnaire? Because most of the issue happen in human beings are not able to direct measure. So this is why we conduct the research in empirical study should based on survey or questionnaire. So in the first sentence, the author suggests that their paper will combine the data from at least 300 valid sample from the real person. And the second one, the method part should be very specific, say what the method or what the data analysis approach they use. Well, in this paper, they state that they use the structural equation modeling, which is the advanced statistic analysis. So checklist about the third part method, well, it completes. And the fourth part is about the result. The result is the key element or the main part for your study. Well, we conduct the research, right? We can imagine that what the result, well, can be shared, but well, we do not understand how the audience or how the participant responds our question. So it exists some variance. So the result itself is the core element of the empirical study. And let's check about how the author present the result in this paper. The result indicate that the continued usage of the social app is driven by user satisfaction. So the first sentence confirm that they use the satisfaction theory from marketing and psychology literature can support their assumption. And the second part is about some value perspective. For example, the hedonic motivation is one of very important value about consumers' perception. If they have some motivation to use some technology, then they will feel, okay, well, it is so fun, it is so playful, so I want to use it. Well, so the results say one of the key motivation is the hedonic motivation. Well, this is the basic idea about the research paper. And of course, the author present a very complicated, the so-called mediation model. But today, I think the time is so limited, so I will left in the last section for the discussion or some audience that you may have some question. Then I will present the detail. Okay, the last part, I did not say the conclusion section, but I say this finding. Let's check about that sentence. The finding is that our understanding of users' continuous intention in the context of social apps, discussion and implication are provided. It is so concise that you can understand the conclusion part should combine at least two elements. Well, first one is discussion. Why discussion is so important? Because we need to discuss the main idea present in the paper and combine the finding in between the literature. So discussion is very important, but it's very hard for a junior researcher like you. Okay, the discussion will bring some implication. The implication means that the core value of empirical study, because the so-called empirical study means that we collect the data from the real person, real data. And since that the data is from the real person, so we can provide some useful, for example, strategy or implication to the industry or something else. Okay, so which element I did not emphasize? Well, the answer is the conclusion, because the conclusion part, well, basically is a big summarize of the whole paper. Well, in my experience, as far as I know, that most of the empirical study contain about 8,000 words. 8,000 words. So in the conclusion section, it's about maybe 500 words to 1,000. But the result part could be more than 1,000. So I think that the most important part in a research paper, and especially the empirical study, is the result part.
Professor Tang?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I have a question. There are some terms which we may not understand well. I wonder
Sure.
if you will explain them later, like structural equation modeling. Will you explain that?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
it actually it's about a statistic analysis. Well, I'm not sure if the audience understand, for example, regression analysis.
Well, actually, the dialogue I had with ChatGPT was about mediation effects and also regression. Regression would mean to start from a result and check back to the factors. Is that right? Or could you explain?
Yes. Well, just imagine that if we want to explain the factor affect the user's continued intention, so we need to identify which important or influential factors in this paper we talk about. So the model itself is the method to explain what factor can be most influential, just like a weight or something like a antecedent or predictor to predict maybe, for example, users' continued intention. So if you can imagine that you have 3 factors, and one of them has a higher weight to explain the user's continued intention. So you can claim that this factor is most influential among others. Is that more clear?
Yes. Is it to do with your figure 1? Sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead.
Yeah, sure.
The figure 1 on page, wait, this is on what page? 344. Yes, 344.
Sure.
Here you have your research framework listing all the important factors and also the hypotheses.
Yeah, sure. I will cover that.
Okay, so this has to do with structural equation model. Is that right?
Yes. The so-called structural equation modeling means that all of the factors has been estimated and tested in the same time.
Okay.
Well, in the traditional regression model, they need to be tested one by one. For example, the perceived usefulness, the relationship between perceived usefulness and satisfaction, they cannot be estimated in one single regression model to include all of the factors. However, the SEM, the abbreviation of structural equation modeling, the SEM can estimate all of the factors, or we call construct, in the same time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a very tough question because, well, it's about some issue about estimation in terms of statistics. So, well, for junior research, for junior researcher, I suggest maybe you should take some essential course for statistics so that you can understand what is the terminology that Professor Liu has mentioned about, for example, regression. Okay.
Okay, yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Liu. I think we can have more time to discuss what the audience, say classmates, their feedback about my presentation. So would someone else can feedback about your understanding about these 5 elements?
Any responses? How about Albert? Yes, please.
Okay.
Good morning, Professor. Thank you very much. I read your paper, and it is very interesting because it is it is very clear how you come up with your say constructs and how you present your hypothesis. I learned a lot, and especially you mentioned the implication for even the industry. I think that is the money point.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, I may ask if you use Python or you use what software to run the equation?
Well, I did not disclose in my paper. However, it could be implemented by a software we call Lizrael or SEM software. But I'm afraid that today's section is so limited that I cannot, and especially I'm not in the, well, it's an online meeting. I can teach you hand by hand. So maybe if you have further question about the data analysis, well, I will discuss with Professor Zhou to organize another section to conduct, for example, some workshop for data analysis. But for your question, I can present, well, it's a very important issue here. Well, for the, I'm sorry, but my computer is so slow. You can go to the appendix part to find out how can the authors measure some abstract construct like a satisfaction. Okay, the satisfaction is not a variable, can be direct measure. So we need to use the so-called questionnaire or items to measure them. But what exact the items you need to select? Well, my suggestion is that you need to base on, well, to be honest, my experience is based on the highly cited paper. So if there's two sources, okay, they also mention about they use some items to measure satisfaction. But my suggestion to you is that you may select a paper with more citations or highly respect researcher in the field. So the two things that from your question, the first part that I cannot answer you directly, which is the data analysis part. Well, but the second part I can answer you is you can find out some measurement section, and especially the item I use in this paper. Is that clear for you?
Yeah, that's clear. Of course, I also read the appendix, and that's very helpful because you showed us how to say cite and adopted
Sure.
items from other papers. Thank you, Professor.
Sure. It's just like an index. Well, when I was a student like you, my advisor told us that to read a paper, well, that's another effort you need to put time on this, is that to find out some useful index reference book, for example, the tool, the measurement tool. Okay, so after today's talk, maybe some of the students conduct empirical study like this paper, then you can how to say, to search some scale or some items related to the concept you want to put into your thesis. Okay, let's go into the introduction section. So introduction section is not only, just as I said before, to present only the background information. That is not enough. Maybe it's okay in the level of thesis, but it is not, definitely not enough for the paper want to publish in a high-ranking journal. Because in introduction section, at least you need to cover three things. The first one is the importance of the issue. Well, what is the main idea about the importance? It's not based on my understanding or your understanding or your advisor's understanding. It is based on the evidence. So in 2013, that there's a very hot issue. It's about the messenger or social act. Well, according to Florey Analytics, they, in their report, say that there's one very important category about the social bad. In that time, I guess the For example, the model for iPhone is about iPhone 4 or iPhone 3. It's in a very earlier stage, right? So in that moment, in that stage, the internet or even some hardware is not so mature like today. But there's a very interesting application we call social apps. For example, WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, or Facebook's Messenger. So the growth of the social apps in that year is about 2 times. So it's a very important thing to tell the reader or the editor, say, well, this issue is quite important, no matter the means to the academics, but it also contributes to the industry. Okay, the second part is that you need to trigger the curiosity from who? From editor, because the editor will make the decision to your paper. And if we talk about the level of the thesis level, at least you need to trigger the curiosity of your advisor, or to convince your advisor, say that this issue is quite important. So let's check about what the author convinced the editor. Say some leading social app like Facebook has shown, wow, a very surprise things, right? A decline in use, especially among teenagers. So if this sentence read by the editor, do you have any idea, if you are the editor, what will you want to see? Well, I want to see the solution. And the author continued to say, but some competitors among social apps area, well, alternative social apps such as Instagram and Line have different trends. Well, they have been gradually gained in the popularity. So this is a very interesting thing, right? In the industry perspective, there's a very leading company will have some decline trend, but in the other competitor, they will have another different things. So it will trigger the reader and the editor's curiosity. So this is another important thing. You need to present your issue, just like to dress yourself, to be a party star like that. Okay. The second point is about the value. Well, I have to say, for junior researcher like you, not only to read the paper in academic side or in academic perspective, but you need to understand what the topic could be, make money, something like the potential to be developed in the future. Well, for this part, the authors say that with more developer launching new social app, well, this is a quite important sentence. Users have plentiful opportunity to access them. This means that if the Facebook, the leading company like Facebook, well, they cannot convince their main audience, which is the teenagers, then they will decline, not only in their social app, even their whole industry, right? So this is the sentence to re-emphasize that this issue is quite important. And the last part, I say the 3 parts, right? For the academic, for the industry, and you need to very clearly to state what the research question you want to fulfill, you want to deal with. Okay, in this paper, the author clearly to say what the research question they want to solve. Well, due to the time, I'm not going to stay. Please read the paper. Okay, another part today I want to cover is about the theoretical foundation, which is, I have to say, advanced skill to to the junior researcher, well, if you want to make your research bigger, then you must understand what the impact of the theory. The theory itself is something like a collection of the research. Well, a lot of research can driven or can build up a theory. So the power of the theory, well, is more than a single individual study. So if you can try to introduce or use some sound theory in your paper, that would be a very useful and very powerful. And in this paper, he also say to answer the research question, the paper propose a research framework. They propose a research framework means that they hypothesis all of the control or the variable based on the literature. However, they also mention about a very important theory in the field. So they based on the paper, say post-acceptance model of information system. So they also use the path theory or based on the theory to build up their framework. So you can understand that how the author dress their research. Okay, they propose a research framework not only by their own concept, but from the literature and especially from the well-known theory in the field. And especially they not only count on one theory only, but also apply their study to different field. As you may understand that the post-adoption model is from information science theory, but the satisfaction and the habit is from another viewpoint, which is the marketing and psychology. So they propose that this factor, for example, satisfaction and the habit, could be a very useful predictors to test their effect for the users' continued intention to use the social app. And in this paper, they also challenge the past study, because the past study, most of the study in that time, they only use the satisfaction theory, because the theory told us, say, if the consumer or the user do not satisfy, well, they will not purchase the things or the service. But they don't mention that in the digital age, there's one very important thing is the habit. We do not use one thing without habit. Or how to say, we use something, maybe it's not we satisfied with the service or the product, but only from the habit. Do you have some experience that you read the YouTube every time, but you complain, say, wow, the quality of the YouTube or some technology is quite low, but why you continue to use that? Well, this is very interesting. I want to let you know. You can consider the habit theory in your future study. if you want to conduct a empirical study, for example, in marketing or some consumer behavior area. Okay, so I may talk too much. I spend too much time for the introduction, but I think in the first few slides, the whole things in this paper I have been covered. So if the time is so limited, I want to jump to the well, as Professor Liu has mentioned, that the whole things can be refined into our research framework. So in this research framework, they point out at least 5 hypotheses. So the author has assumed that well, from customer value, well, there's 3 important motivation, which the first one is the from the usefulness perspective or from the utilitarian motivation, which is that the author means the author feel that the technology or the product or the service helpful for their work or their daily life. And the other perspective or the other value is from their, the enjoyment or fun or playful hedonic motivation. The last part is not from the utilitarian perspective or hedonic perspective, but their friends. Well, have you have some experience to purchase or to use something not only based on your personal idea but your friend? Well, if you have such experience, then you can understand how the author convinced the editor in a single submission state. And in the middle part, they present a very important things from satisfaction theory and habit theory to, well, there's a 5 contra or factors to taken together to predict users' continuous intention. Okay, so this is the contribution which I have already mentioned before. Let's go to the literature review, which is the second part. I want to mention 3 lessons to you. Well, the first one is try to understand your literature, not only from a good part, but you need to draw something maybe from the bad side. So in this paper, the author not only mentioned about positive effect, but also mentioned about the negative effect of using or of using some technology, which is a very important contribution to convince the audience and the editor in a field. And the second part is try to build up a framework based on the theory. Okay, for master student like you, if you cannot find out some useful theory or maybe too hard to you, maybe you can only based on your idea or discuss with your advisor. Okay, just wait for a second. Okay, I'm so sorry because today I'm not stay at Taipei, but I go to the Kaohsiung to participate in the oral defense. Okay, and well, in the literature review section, one thing is quite important for everyone. It's about the articulation. Not the articulation, the word came from the verb articulate. The articulate means that the author need to say more or explain more detail to convince their audience. So the articulation means that you need to read the paper. Not only read the paper, you need to describe why this paper related to your paper, right? That is the main idea of the literature review. We conduct a literature review is to provide the whole paper a very strong or very solid foundation to going on. Due to the time limit, I will skip this part because it's quite long. And after the literature review section, well, for conducting an empirical paper, you need to state very clearly for your hypothesis. The hypothesis is that based on the literature, maybe you predict or you assume some relationship between 2 variables or between 2 factors, where you need to define one by one. So in this paper, well, there are 5 factors, right? So the author present hypothesis from hypothesis 1 to hypothesis 5. And in the consumer value perspective, every hypothesis contains 3 sub-hypotheses. And in the hypothesis, you may see that the author detailed their result, for example, positive or negative. Okay, this is very, very similar for the lecture today. That you need to not only introduce some literature quite related to you, their finding or their suggestion, but you need to introduce some paper. They talk about the same topic, but they may have the different results. Okay, and let's go into the methodology part. The methodology part, well, I suggest for junior researcher, well, it could be a very easy or very fast, can be fast complete section in your thesis. Why I say so? Maybe some of you are a little afraid of statistics or mathematics. It is not the how do I say the things that I suggest you to complete this section in a very earlier stage, because you can follow what textbook. Well, if you take a course, well, it must have a textbook, right? So your instructor, your advisor will suggest some textbook. So just follow the textbook, their procedure, their statistical model. It just follow their model, because we are not statistics, we are not mathematic researcher, right? We are social science researcher. So we are not going to change the method itself, but we apply the method. So this is why I suggest junior researcher to finish this part as early as you can, because there's you can follow the textbook. You just follow the textbook, and after you read some textbook, you understand the procedure, and the procedure will be the same. Okay, for example, in the methodology, there were at least the 2 parts. The first one is about the data. Where does the data come from? So justify the empirical data. The data is quite important to form or to shape empirical study. So let's see how the authors present their empirical data. They say participants and procedure. So empirical data, the author say empirical data for this study will collect through a paper-based survey of college students from Taiwan. So this first sentence implies 2 things. That the first one is that they use the paper-based survey. And guess what? Now, today we have a lot of technology can support us to collect the data online. For example, Google Form, right? You can apply the same things, but using a different approach. You can collect as much as you can the data in this paper. And the second part is the participant. The main participant collect in this paper is from college student. So the author must be very understand the topic, the relationship between the topic and the college student. So the author say, according to the survey of the mobile usage conducted in the very authentic institution in Taiwan, they say more than half of heavy use of mobile device and the service are young adults. And guess what? The college student is quite similar. The background or the demographic information, the demographic background about college student is very close to the young adults, because the young adults, by definition, they most like 20 to 30 years old. And the college student, like you, maybe 20, 22, I guess, something like that. So this is very important to introduce some evidence to support your data. Okay, the other support in this paper is that they quote a paper, say, researchers have found that college students, the internet use of the college student is quite suitable for mobile app use, because in this age, they just like internet natives. They born in the area of internet, so they understand how to use, and they quite heavy use the internet. Okay, so this is the background information about the data. The authors spent a lot of pages to convince that the data is representative. You need to convince this part so that your result could be reliable. Okay, let's check about how the author convinced to present more evidence in this section. Okay, they say, well, they are not going to collect all of the data. Why? Because some of the data are missed, or they do not fill all of the section. So about 90% questionnaire been collected. However, about 10% are excluded. And based on the child test means that if you want to compare with different sample set, you need to consider the variance. The variance means that, well, in this paper that the author collect the data from 3 universities here, from 3 universities. But how can we convince the editor, say, all of the sample in different universities have same variance? You need to present your test. Okay, this based on the test result, the results say, well, there's no significant difference in terms of measurement item. Means that in all of the factors, the response among 3 subsample, means from 3 universities, the variance are quite the same. The word significant is the statistical term, means that the result has no difference between 0. Okay. So based on the result, the author put all of the response together to conduct the final analysis. Okay, and the first part is to justify the empirical data for the research, and the second part is to stack the approach. The approach contains 3 subsets. The first one is the research ethics. This is quite important in Taiwan, that we have IRB requirement to conduct such humanity research. Means that if your research involve some humanity, means that you need to acquire the data from participant. The participant is a real person, and you need to have a so-called research ethic approved. And in this paper, well, in that time, this is not a requirement, but the author proved the guarantee of the confidential in this paper. which we call information consensus to the participant. Means that all of the participants collect in this paper agree their answer being used for this paper. This is the first part. And the second part is the measurement part. The measurement part, as I mentioned before, as all of the factors mentioned in this study is a variable which cannot be direct measured. For example, you can direct measure your weight and your height by what? By the centimeter, right? You can direct to measure that. However, you cannot direct measure users' satisfaction. Okay, you need to base on the questionnaire or some scale. So this is a very useful part for you if you want to conducting some research like this. Okay, you want to collect some perception of the user or consumer or some student, then you need to report the measurement of the contrast. In this paper, the author state that they use a 7-point Likert scale, means that from strongly disagree to strongly agree, from 0.1 to 0.7. Okay, you can follow, as I mentioned before, the appendix here. Okay, I present first. The first factor is about usefulness. And the second factor is about enjoyment. For example, using this social app is pleasurable. I had fun using this social app. I found using this social app to be interesting. Well, you may feel about they are quite the same, but this is a different subset of the concept of enjoyment. And it is based on the well-known paper. Okay, you can follow the format in this paper to prepare your thesis. Okay, let's quite go to the fourth part, which is a very important part about empirical finding. Okay, in the empirical finding, well, in this paper, we cover two things. The first part is to convince our editor and the reader, say all of the measurements are reliable. So based on the literature, that the SEM, this approach contains two steps. The first step is to assess their measurement model. Okay, and the second part is the structural model. After you finish the measurement model, then you can implement the analysis of structural model. The logic is that. Okay, and in the first part, the measurement model, we use the Lizarel as the software. I'm so sorry that I can demonstrate to you in the field. So if you are interested about how to implement data analysis by using Lizarel or related tool, maybe I can discuss with Professor Zhou to organize another a meeting. Don't worry about that. Well, actually, I live in Taipei, so I'm quite close to your university. Okay, in the measurement assessment, I would suggest you to report the index. Well, this kind of index can be founded in the software. The calculation and the formula is quite complicated. Okay, even I'm one of the authors, but we only retrieve the result from the report. So just remember NNFI such as the fit index. The fit index can be present as evidence to say that measurement model in this paper are quite good or are quite reliable. Okay, here I want to present you about the index, a very common index, how to convince your reader, your editor, say your measure are good in terms of two things. The first thing is about the internal consistent. The internal consistent means that all of the items within one construct measure the same thing, which is the internal consist. They consist to measure one concept. For example, here, the three items consist to measure the idea of enjoyment by this word. For example, pleasurable, have fun, or be interesting. They are close to the main idea of enjoyment. So here you are required to report some quantitative evidence. For example, Cronbach alpha. You may heard about this index before. This index is based on the formula. The formula is quite complicated, but the value of the Cronbach alpha, well, basically is need to be higher than 0.7. The 0.7, just imagine that the square of 0.7. What is the value of the square of 0.7? Very close to 0.5, right? It means that the variable being expanded more than the part being explained by the items are more than the part cannot be explained. So this is the main idea about the threshold of 0.7. So as we can see in the table 1, yeah, Cronbach alpha for each contrast are quite high, and at least they exist 0.7. So we can claim that here, indicating the item explains more variance in the underlying contrast than measurement error. Okay, so the square of 0.7 means about 0.5. It's about half. Okay, the other index is about the reliability, and the other index is the validity. The validity, the main idea of the validity means that your measurement is valid. Say you use the pleasurable, you use the have fun, be interested is close to the main idea of the enjoyment. And in terms of the quantitative approach, they need to be combined with the constraint model and the proposed model. It's a little bit complicated, but you can see in the table 2 here. In the table 2 here, on the diagonal line, the value equal to the square root of AVE. The AVE is an abbreviation of average variance explained. So the average variance explained, square root of average variance explained, is higher than their variance. Means that their measure in terms of quantitative approach is valid. Okay, so you can use the criteria, say in the diagnostic line, the value appear in the diagnostic line is higher than their sub-component. For example, 0.84 is higher than 0.52, something like that. Okay, And let's go to another important section about discussion. The main idea of the discussion.
Professor Tang?
Sure.
Sorry, your explanation has been always clear until the last part, which I think is to do with statistics. But could you go back? Maybe we can at least understand the general concept. You talked
Which
about
page?
measurement model.
Measurement model.
First, it's Kronbach
alpha here.
Yeah, Kronbach alpha is to test the consistency among different constructs. Is that right? Or chi-square is the one to test the consistency among different models, different constructs.
Well,
how about Kronbach alpha? The purpose of Kronbach alpha is what?
Is what? Okay. Let's go more easy way to understand the Kronbach alpha. The alpha itself is to present how consistently the measurement item measure in one construct. For example, we use three items,
Yes,
PU1,
one
PU2,
construct.
and PU3 to measure the concept of perceived usefulness. And they have very, very high correlation with each other.
I
They
see.
measure the same things. Okay, maybe we can go
So,
to...
after we get the survey results, there is a way to run the statistics to test if the results are correlated, right? So this Kronbach alpha is to test correlation among different items in one construct.
Yes,
And
yes.
chi-square is to test consistency among different constructs.
Well, in one construct,
yes,
I have to say the reliability concern about how the consistent of the item in one construct, but the validity. Well, there's two ideas. The first one is the convergent validity, and the second one is the discriminant validity. The discriminant validity present an idea that if some item measure one construct, then they cannot be confounded or confused to measure in other construct. So these are two things. The first one, you need to make sure that the items are highly correlated with each other in one construct. Okay, the first part.
That's consistency validity, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And you can use the very common threshold or the value of 0.7 of Kronbach alpha.
Okay, understood. And chi-square?
Chi-square. The chi-square here is to present the table 3. The chi-square is it actually a French statistic researcher. They present their idea. The chi-square, the symbol is very similar to the X. Okay, the chi-square is try to compare two things. The first one is the original model, and the second one is the new model. Well, it's hard to say, but you can see that PU and PN here. You can see the table 3 on the slide.
Yes,
they are significant. Means that the measurement between PU and EU are quite different.
Okay, so that's to test discriminate validity.
Yes.
Among different constructs.
Yeah, among different constructs. So we have 5. We have 6 constructs, including continuous intention, which is the predictor. So just as a very simple mathematical problem. How many possible combination about 6 items? Well, the answer is C6 combined 2, right? So you need to compare each by each. So in this part, you can see PU and EN, the two contra has very significant differences. So we can claim that these two measurement, the measurement within the two contra are different. They have the so-called discriminant validity.
Okay, could I ask a very unprofessional question? Because you also talk about mediator variables, right? So in other words, some of the construct may be correlated. Is that right?
Well, mediation here is not discussed in the measurement model. The measurement model here, maybe I can go to the model here. The model itself needs to deal with two things. The first thing is about the reliability and the validity issue within each contra. After the issue being fulfilled, then we can go to exam, just like this line, H3C, H3A, H3B. So the first part is the measurement issue, and the second part is the structural issue. And the professor mentioned that the mediation effect is the second part's issue, which is, we need to confirm after the measurement issue been secured, then we can discuss the relationship between each variable in the model. For example, we can have a very simple example here. Can we say that the effect of perceived usefulness being directed impact to users' continuous intention? Is that true? Okay, how can we provide the evidence? It should be from two things. The first one is the H3A, the path from perceived usefulness to the satisfaction, not significant. And the other thing is the satisfaction, the path from satisfaction to continued intention, which is the hypothesis, the first hypothesis. If the path from perceived usefulness to satisfaction and satisfaction to continued intention, the path not significant, they not significant effect to each other, and we can claim that the perceived usefulness have full effect of continued intention. Sorry, excuse me, the direct effect of perceived usefulness to continued intention. So we present the second test here. Is about the indirect effect test. So we analyze every single mediation. Well, actually, the mediation only exists in two. I'm so sorry to jump down the slide into two key factors in the model, which is the satisfaction and the hypothesis and the habit and the habit. So regarding the mediation effect that Professor Liu mentioned, is focused on how the two variable, how the two contra mediate the impact from the so-called customer value to the final predictor, the so-called continued intention, which is two things.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Maybe you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Well, I think maybe we can organize another meeting. Okay, let's go to the discussion section. Well, as I mentioned before, the discussion section offer a very important theoretical contribution of this paper. How I say so? Because you cannot only present your result just at the end of the fourth section, which is the result section, without any discussion. You need to discuss with your your finding compared with the finding in past study. So this is the nature of scientific research. We need to compare the past research so that we can understand how far we go further. Okay, in this paper, we argue that the two very important factor called satisfaction and habit can mediate or can fully mediate the effect from the consumer value perspective to the user's continuing intention. Let's see how the result support the data or not. As you can see that all of the results present in the table 4, well, only H3C, which is the hypothesis, the author assumed that the effect from PU, which is the usefulness, the effect of usefulness for a single individual, if this effect can be a strong motivation to encourage the user to continue use the social app. In this result, the answer is no, because the path from PU to CI is not significant. The significant means that if the result has been added on with the star sign, means your finding could support your argument or could support your argument, your hypothesis. And in terms of this idea that almost the hypothesis proposed in this model could be support. So let's go to the last part about the contribution, which is the main idea of discussion section. So as we can see in the table 5, first of all, the mediation effect, well, from satisfaction and habit that occur between perceived usefulness and intention to use. Here, the first pass, they are all significant. And the second part, okay, here, because the PU to EI did not show his significance, so you can see the satisfaction and the habit only partially mediate relation between perceived enjoyment and continuing intention. So this finding is quite interesting. So we present the result altogether in 3 folds. The first one is users' satisfaction with social app is driven from 3 factors, namely utilitarian, hedonic, and social app. And this finding is quite important because the finding is consistent with the past study. And this study is the original model that this paper adopted. So first one, the paper confirmed the finding in maybe 20 years ago that to 20 years ago, to the new technology, because in this paper, they are not talking about a social app, right? But they only propose an idea about the information system continuous use. And we apply or we introduce this paper as a foundation for the framework. And we confirm that the new technology could have the same features. The same feature means that the satisfaction is quite important feature to affect users' continuing intention. This finding consists with past study. However, the word, however, is a transition word to address their finding can be further discussed. It is notable that our study failed to demonstrate perceived usefulness as a critical element in consumer decision to continue using social app, which is this path. Okay, we assume that this effect could be supported. However, the empirical result did not show the support for this path. So even that we say satisfaction is quite important to using the social app. However, the usefulness, one of the elements, the usefulness is not a critical factor or a critical antecedent to users' satisfaction. This is the first part. And the second part is about users' continuing intention will be influenced by satisfaction and the hedonic. Well, this, I'm sorry, but I found that the result, I did not change the result. You can see they are all the same. Okay, I'm so sorry. Maybe let's go to the paper itself in the last part.
Yes, we all have the paper. That's fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Maybe it's quite some embarrassing. Okay. Okay. The second discussion here is about the hedonic use of social app. Whereas we may know that the reason why we use the social app, for example, Line or Facebook Messenger in the earlier stage, well, maybe it's try to find out a friend or to connect with other people, right? But in this study, well, they present that hedonic value is quite important to using the social app. Okay, and okay, the statement is here. Okay. Okay. The last thing is about the habit. The habit. Well, in this paper, we actually mentioned one argument to challenge the existing literature. Say, just mention in the earlier section that in the digital age, people use a certain technology, maybe not only because the service or the product satisfied with your demand. However, you are going to use it just only because your habits. So in this paper, we present this idea in the revision run. I remember that this paper experienced about 3 or 4 times revision, and the major battle or revision argument is focused on the main idea presented in this study, which is a habitual theory. Well, after the revision section, I remember that because this paper is quite is quite old in my publication list. I just remember that the editor sent me one, because I'm the corresponding author, sent me the messages say, I feel this paper could be cited more times because you present a very interesting finding to describe the user living in the internet age. So as the expectation of the editor, the paper being cited more than our expectation. So let me give a quick conclusion and lesson I want that can help you. The first one is that this paper presents some finding, and the finding could be useful because they present some users' continuous intention. Their antecedent of users continuing means that if you want to test a new technology, for example, the ChatGPT using in educational use or business use, business purpose, can you draw or can you derive from the literature to identify some antecedent to impact the user or to impact users' intention to use ChatGPT for a certain purpose. This is a very important lesson for a student, because you need to think some interesting topic so that the paper in your writing could be aroused, could be raise some others' curiosity or attention. And the second one is about today's second lesson is I try to let you know that there are 5 important elements from introduction, literature, master, and result and conclusion. The 5 parts are quite important because if you want to complete your thesis, don't just think this is the one thing, but divide it into 5 different sub-things, and then you can feel, the burden will reduce a lot. Okay, just as I say that maybe some section or some chapter, you can just based on your textbook, right? Of course, you need to rewrite, but this is a framework to researcher to conduct empirical study. So understanding the 5 elements is helpful to you. And the last one is I try to encourage all of the audience. Here you are student, the nature of student, or the duty of a student, or the duty of graduate student is to conduct a research. But how can you conduct your research? You need to read the paper. Don't forget, reading is quite important to you. Not only to take some course, but you need to read the paper and to read some recent published paper. Don't just only read some classic paper. You need to also read some paper published recently. Okay, and thank you for your invitation. I understand that today's talk, well, there has some part that I can cover in the same time because the limit of demographic limitation or something else. But I feel this introduction to the junior researcher or master student could be helpful because you can understand how to start your research. So thank you for your lesson. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Tang. Maybe we still have about 19 minutes, right? Can we finish at 12?
Well,
or when do you have to go? Just let me know.
Well, actually, I'm trying to go now because I still need to go back to my university. Or would you like to go into Q&A section?
Yes, I'm asking how much time we still have. We will definitely respect your schedule. Yeah.
Okay, maybe 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure. So first, any questions from our students? How about Gary? Since you're definitely going to do empirical study, right? Yeah, maybe let me start, and then some of you can follow up. Definitely, thank you, Professor Tang, for this very lucid and complete presentation of your paper. I know it's not easy because it involves really very professional and sophisticated methods. But at least we know that you are dealing with 5 variables, and then they are organizing a structural framework. So there are independent variables, but then also mediator variables. I'm very interested in your discussion of the part that you were asked to revise more. That's one thing, and the second thing is the part 3E hypothesis 3 C3, right? Where continued perceived usefulness does not directly impact continued usage. I wonder how you will interpret it.
Well, in this,
Yes,
well, in
go
this,
ahead.
yeah, sorry, but in this paper,
H3C, yes,
Yes.
3C,
3C,
yes.
yeah,
How
in the
you will interpret
paper,
it.
yeah, in the paper, we argue that the main idea or the main design for the social app is not for the the job use or the work use. You only use because we present at least 3 different perspectives from usefulness perspective, hedonic perspective, and the social perspective. But this is only one part, not all of the element of the so-called utilitarian motivation. Well, the utilitarian motivation, the passive variable is usefulness. The usefulness will significant impact the user's satisfaction and the user's habit to use. Well, I may say part of them or part of the user in maybe 10 years ago, they feel that they use a social app. And if they want to continue use a social app, well, first one is the major part is to make them satisfied with the app. Of course, the satisfaction could come from can this app useful to me to find my friend. But in terms of the hypothesis 3C, my expectation is the main design for the social app is for more than hedonic or fun use, not for the usefulness. How to say the usefulness? The original definition of the usefulness is that the technology can help with your work, can help with your study, can help with your something informal purpose. But in terms of the main purpose of social app, maybe they are going to fulfill with individuals other demand more than utilitarian demand, which is the explanation. But for student, maybe you can just think about some more specific issue or technology. You can try to think about, is that the main purpose of the user to use a technology or use a certain product is for their job or for their works or just only for their fun. You can compare their motivation. Well, so this is my explanation. I hope you can.
I do relate to this, and I wonder because the study was done 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, sure. 10
Wonder
years.
if more and more people use social apps for work now than maybe 10 years ago. Like nowadays, we connect with our students via line.
Of course.
When students move away from Facebook, we started to connect with them via line.
Sure.
Or IG, etc. And then this year I have some students who go to Germany to study, and then there they use WhatsApp more than Line.
Sure.
So maybe social apps indeed serve different work purposes in different places.
Yes,
Yeah.
Professor Liu, I totally agree with your opinion. Maybe we can conduct another study to using the current social app and in the current environment, because time changed so fast. The technology development for us, well, I may just say in 10 years ago that the social app, well, is for maybe I agree with Professor Liu. Maybe we can conduct another study to verify is that the hypothesis been significant in the current status or not.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah. Let's
sure,
see if we have any questions from the students. How about Gary? Let me pass the mic to you.
So don't worry about the question that you may a little bit shy or you do not really realize the content. But after today's talk, maybe you can come up with some idea related to this issue. And please, you can email to me. Okay.
So thank you. Digesting what you have ended. Just I'm trying to resonate.
Yes.
Quantitative study area, like stuff. You don't like before. Because I was 3 and in history there is nothing need to statistic or to absorbing.
Excuse me, can you speak the question again, because the internet is not stable?
No, I haven't asked anything. I mean, I'm still absorbing what you have said.
Oh, okay, okay. Sure. Of course, you can, well, absorbing some idea in this talk, or maybe you can write some related idea. And if you have further question, okay, don't worry about that. You can just send me an email here in the last page.
And
the last question, because you're from the program of creative industry, I wonder if you've been advising any projects related to creative industry. For instance, here Gary is interested in cross-cultural business communication, and I'm asking him to try to find a case. And then we have Colleen here working on Percy Jackson, the TV series. So she might be she might need to analyze the audience responses to the Percy Jackson series. Do you have any advice for us? This is a very large question, so just any general responses to the student interest.
Sure. First of all, I may suggest that student Gary, maybe
Yes.
you can try to find out some news or in your country. I'm not sure if Vietnam or Philippines, you can narrow
Macau.
down.
He's from
Yeah.
Macau.
Macau. Okay, you can narrow down the application in your familiar context. Means that well, some of students in Zhongxin University, they would like to, in the creative industry department, they would like to using some technology to generate some content and to analyze users' response to the content, compare with the existing content. For example, I'm not sure about a film study at all, but some of our students would like to, it's time of the artificial intelligence. Most of the technology help user to generate some content to close to some idea. But today, the technology itself is not so mature that user can use them very, very smoothly. So you may try to, in one part is to familiar with a specific technology. For example, some AI for generating content or AI for generating some things. But in other way is try to compare with the user's response to the content, because well, I'm not sure that Gary or your classmate know the idea of fake news or not. The fake news is really a hard issue now for humanities students. They try to endeavor their effort to or some researcher they endeavor that to educate people how to judge the news or the sources from the
fake news. Yes.
Yeah, fake news. So you may try to analyze. It is quite. I feel this is not complicated. It just you may just present some sources to your audience, but before your experiment, you may need to I have to say set on some material which is come from the true sources, and some are obviously from fake news to your audience to test them, and then try to using some technology to advance the fake news or something like that to compare their response.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I guess our time is up. So let's give Professor Tang a round of applause.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Liu.
I think we'll keep in touch with you. If you have any questions, we'll send an email to you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'll close the connection now. Bye-bye.
Sure. Bye-bye.